All set.
Okay. We call the January 26th, 2021 meeting of the Newton Planning Board to order. As chair of the Newton Planning Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, and most recently extended by Executive Order 2021-1, this body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there are no physical locations to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are utilizing the Zoom platform with this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in the meeting telephonically or by going to the Zoom website. As we previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the town website. If anyone has problems, they should email the planning board office at planningboard@newtonnh.net. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be rescheduled and adjourned. Please note that all votes that are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Also, in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 23, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, and most recently extended by Executive Order 2021-1, the planning board is relieved from the statutory and local requirements to meet on a particular schedule or a certain number of times within a given time frame. The planning board is also relieved from the complying with statutory or local deadlines for accepting, hearing, and acting on planning board applications. Note, as an attendee of the meeting, your microphone and/or phone will be muted. The board chair will specify when the public comment period is open for an application. Town staff in attendance at the meeting to manage the public comment process. If you are participating online with the Zoom program, click on the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. This will raise your hand so that the moderator knows that you wish to speak. If you are participating by telephone, press *9. This will indicate to the moderator that you wish to speak. When it is your turn, the moderator will unmute you and let you know that you can share your comments. When speaking during the meeting, please announce your name so the administrative assistant can know who is speaking as he is taking notes. At this time, I ask Mr. Doggett to call the roll of members and alternates.
Mr. Hamel,
Present and alone.
Ms. Estabrook,
Present and alone.
Ms. Collier,
Present and alone.
Mr. Foote,
Present.
Mr. White is excused. Mr. Andrews,
Present and alone.
Mr. Cronlick,
Present and not alone.
Ms. Allen, she was here.
She appears to be muted.
By the way, if you press the space bar, it will unmute you while you speak. Okay. Okay, move along to Ms. White.
Present and alone.
Is Mr. Sforza here? Mr. Sfot.
Zot?
Zot,
Yes, I am here.
are you alone?
That's kind of personal, isn't it? No, I'm not.
Mr. Zelinski.
I think he's muted. Oh, there he goes.
Present and alone.
Okay. Mr. Chair, you have,
Jim, did you call Jim White?
excuse me?
Did you call Jim White?
He's excused for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Did you do Mike Andrews?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's alone.
sorry, I didn't hear him.
So at this time, the first item on the agenda is 125 development.
Mr. Chair, this is
Yes.
Annie. May I interrupt for just a second?
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that for this meeting, and I'd like us to consider it for all future meetings, that a presentation from an applicant be limited to 30 minutes.
Seconded.
She kind of dropped out there. What was the last bit?
The motion is that applicant verbal explanation of applications be limited to 30 minutes.
Seconded.
Mr. Chair, my thought on this is that arguments before the Supreme Court are limited to 15 minutes. Sometimes we end up going very, very long with a lot of revisiting and revisiting and revisiting. And I'd like to encourage all our applicants to be efficient with our time and their own and their abutters' time.
Are there any other comments?
Who seconded that?
I couldn't recognize the voice.
Neither could I.
I think it was Edvin.
Not me, but I will second it if needed. I'll second it.
I don't know why.
Roger, this is Jen.
Uh-huh.
Just a comment, and I certainly understand the not wanting this to have applicants go on for hours and hours and hours. There can be some issues if you want to limit sort of the presentation of applicants and also the amount of time abutters can have. You can certainly ask people to be efficient, and I recognize that, but to keep things moving along, that sometimes generally falls to the chair, but I understand the purpose. So just sort of keep that in mind for folks.
Oh, this is Sandra. Yeah, I don't think like limiting, it depends. Like they might have a lot of things on the list. Like this is quite long tonight. I mean, like you said, if we should keep them, the words short and maybe, you know, keep them moving, but not really limited. Because what if we don't get to all their points? Then what do we do?
Entertain a motion to give them an extension because everything isn't covered.
Then we'll be carrying it on to another night again.
No, that wasn't my suggestion. It was their time.
Somebody's got a lot of background noise. I couldn't hear. It's quite now. Does any other members have a comment on the motion? Oh, Roger, you're in charge. You didn't give the reins to me. Sorry. I'm being all bossy.
Actually, Mr. Chair, did you want to appoint anybody to vote in place of Mr. White?
Yeah, we'll appoint Barbara White to vote in place of Jim White.
Thank you.
Fine, go away.
Okay. Can you, is there any other comments from the board? If not, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hamel,
Nay.
Mr. Andrews,
No.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Cronlick,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook,
No.
Ms. White,
Barbara, you on mute? We didn't
I'm
hear you.
sorry, that was no.
Okay, so the motion fails. At this point, we'll open 125 Development Corp. New Hampshire request for a public hearing for a 26 lot subdivision. This property is referenced as map 14, block 1, lot 27-3, and I am recusing myself for this item. Ms. Estabrook will chair this portion.
Thank you, Roger. So, Jim, who are the alternates that are here tonight?
we have Ms. Allen, Mr. Zott, and Mr. Zelinski.
Okay, so I'll appoint Mr. Zott for fill-in for Roger.
Point of order, this is
Yep.
Annie. Last week, we had the same two alternates filling in. We did agree to a rotation. And also, point of order, Ms. Allen did not check in as being present.
She may be in the ladies' room.
Well, she didn't check in, that's all I'm saying.
And as far as the rotating, like we said, we'd rotate. I didn't realize that Mr. Zott was last time, and I don't know if we talked about the same kind of things as last time. So I don't
Ms.
know.
Allen and Mr. Zott were both, I have no prejudice against them. I'm just saying, both of them were filled in as members in place of members who were not present. And today we have Mr. Zelinski here, who has not filled in.
I agree with Annie.
Who's that?
Larry.
Was Mr. Zelinski here last time to have a choice?
No,
So, yeah, so I don't know.
Nope.
Just because he's here this time, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if we talked about the same things last time, so. I guess, I don't know.
This is Mr. Zelinski.
Yeah, hi, Bob. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, if Mr. Zott was up to date on this last week, I'd be glad to pass it on. If he was there, and the same thing was discussed. That way, he'd have more information, more knowledge.
Okay, thank you, Bob. So we'll keep Mr. Zott as the alternate, as the voting member for Roger for this time.
Sandra?
Yes.
This is,
Hi, Barbara.
I don't think he's still on. I think he left.
Paul Zott did?
I think so.
Did?
Maybe Jim can check?
Yeah.
That
Paul,
I'm
you there?
looking.
He's not talking to us, so maybe we lost him.
There are 3 people on via telephone numbers that I only recognize one of.
We have an alternate. Could we please appoint somebody and move on?
I did appoint someone, but we lost him. Do we know who those other numbers are?
I do not.
Okay, so I guess we'll appoint Bob then, and then if Paul comes back on, we can switch back, I guess, or we'll just keep Bob. Okay, Bob, you're on. Are you still there too?
Still here.
Okay, you're good. Okay, so we'll start. So we're gonna appoint Bob Zelinski as a voting member in place of Roger for tonight. 125 Development Corp., Placer, New Hampshire requests a public hearing for a 36 lot subdivision. I didn't hear, on South Main Street. The property is referenced as tax map 14, block 1, lot 27-3. Is that Mr. Zott trying to sign back in? When speaking during the meeting, please announce your name so the administrative system can know who is speaking as he takes the minutes. We did get a new plan from the applicant, I believe. So is there a representative from the applicant that would like to give us a recap of the plan?
Yes, this is Coleman McDonough.
Hi, Coleman.
How you doing, Sandra?
I'm well.
I guess we got all the copies of the plan that has been revised. Bill has addressed most of the items. I guess it's down to around 12. The most important being the grading of the roadway coming off of Route 108. In that, with that, it appears by the sound of Mike's letter that we are close to having that resolved. I guess in layman's terms, they just gotta work out the grades instead of filling wetlands, which also has to be approved by DOT. So with the plan as it's presented, Mike Vignali did mention in the comments that it wasn't in the plan set. I will have it blown up to be the second sheet of the plan set. That's kind of just a typo, but just a side note, when the request for the amount of copies come in, because the plan, does change, every time the plan changes, the plan set changes, and with the scale of the plan and the density of it, we're going to probably fill up your dumpster every time the plan changes. So I didn't know if we could minimize and get electronic plan sent over and maybe share a copy until we have a final recordable fully agreed upon plan. But I guess we're really close with the roadway, and that's got to be approved by DOT. And most of the other comments from Mike and Jen, I think can be addressed by AOT and DES and AOT. As some of you members know, and you've been on the board for a long time, that, these plan sets have been in for over a year now. And I guess the microscope really comes from DOT, traffic study, Jim Hewitt from the state, Rid Mock from alteration of terrain. We've engaged Earl Chase, who's going to be doing wildlife and habitat.
Elderly Coleman, can I interrupt a minute to stay on our half an hour? Can we just stay with the facts? Because you might want to, I don't know if we want to talk about some of the waivers and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, I'm just finishing up. We just spent
Okay,
about
thank
20 minutes on who we're going to have for an alternate.
I know.
But the rest of this project, I think, will be analyzed with a microscope from Evan Lewis and wetland crossings and DOT and AOT and traffic study. But we can go through line by line. But I think everything with drainage and runoff calculations are going to be analyzed 10 times over by AOT and Ridge Mox Department. But that's all I have to say. If you want to go one by one through them all, let's go.
No, I asked you to present your plan, so if that's all you want to talk about, that's fine with me.
I was kind of asked to wrap it up. So that's it in a nutshell.
Madam Vice Chair,
Yes, and
this is Annie.
yeah.
There's one major, as far as I'm concerned, which is in Mr. Kelly's points, which is number 4, having to do with the private driveway of 9,060-foot long roadway with only one entrance. This is a great concern to me. That plus the slope coming to the exit. Those are my 2 big ones. I wonder if the applicant could comment on the 9,000-foot long roadway.
Coleman, do you have a
Any good point? I'll be honest with you, those are my 2 big concerns. The roadway and the grade will be worked out with both, Jen and DOT. That will get resolved. It's just a matter of minimizing wetland fillings and meeting requirements. I'm not so much concerned about that. With your comment on the road going through, let me just. And a lot of you members weren't on the board. I've been here for about 16 years. So back when Peachy was chairman and I presented a master plan to the town of Newton, he had a meeting and they took a special vote to do the extension of cul-de-sac rule and regulation. This plan was presented as a master plan and was always the intent of me with the town, repeatedly discussed with that board, 14, maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe it was 14 years ago. To be honest with you, I was going to ask Peachy to turn into this meeting, but I didn't reach him. But it's always been the intent for this road to be connected up until we get into the residential section. I mean, I'm considering this as basically a private road from there to the cul-de-sac. Turner Porter did it up in right off of 125 in Brentwood, New Hampshire. It's a commercial and industrial park that goes right through residential. It's a private road. I mean, there seems to be a lot of concerns on upgrading. It's no different than Sergeant Woods. They had 22 different waivers, thickness of gravel, width of roadways, blah, 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 right? And you can look up the 22 waivers. My intent, I think I would like the town to expect that these would be small units, 1 bedroom, maybe a couple of 2 bedrooms. And this would be the first right of refusal, I would think would go to both, a townsperson that's up in age that can't afford a house in town that's $600,000 or $500,000, and people who work in the commercial and industrial park. So there is going to be like minimal traffic So if you can envision this, we developed phase one. Nobody goes any further than phase one right now. I mean, there's people in Ravensburg. There's 6 interns in Ravensburg. I mean, we would give them kind of first refusal. People in town, upwards of age, people in the park that, can ride or bike to work, or, that live in Germany or live way up in Maine. So there's not going to be a lot of through traffic. The through traffic would be from phase one and phase three into, for that matter, that would go home, that would bike or walk back to their house, or drive back to their house. This isn't going to be a big thorough affair. People who are doing business in phase one are going to, do business in phase one as usual. People who would do business in phase 2 and 3 would, do business there. They're not going to use it as a thorough affair. And Peachy even said, when this comes to fruition and we're up in phase 3, that, we'll address that, whether it's, breakaway gates, fire emergencies, turnarounds, that'll be discussed. And, I don't see a big problem. It's been done up in Brentwood. It's being done up in Exeter. I don't see the big concern. And there was a concern as far as ownership. I don't have a problem, with putting those lots into 125's name. I treated this, and let me make one last and very important comment. Okay, this plan has been in front of the board for over a year. In that, I will not separate the residential from the commercial. This was presented to the plan over a year ago. Okay, and I've said this in a meeting probably about 4 months ago. After a year, I'm not going to separate this plan. This plan is being addressed as a whole. I've got mega dollars into the engineering of this, okay? And we decided to do the whole thing at once because of the economy, okay? And there's tens of people that want to come in to the commercial and industrial park. I get 10 phone calls a day with people that want to come into the park, okay? But this has been addressed, and I am not going to break this plan up. It was a contract to do the whole thing. It was presented to the planning board. The AOT is a master AOT. The DOT is a master DOT. Okay, traffic study is going to be a master traffic study. Everything is going to be treated as a whole. I'm not going to break this project up after a year of doing this.
Mr. Chair, this is
Okay,
Annie.
thank you. Hi, Annie. Did we lose Jim with his, I don't see anything up there anymore.
I'm sorry, what?
He's just not sharing his screen.
He's just
Sandy.
not sharing his screen. All right. We lost all the stuff. I was wondering what happened. Okay, Annie, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make a couple of points. First of all, I said absolutely nothing about breaking up this plan. I don't think that we're talking about for this anything to do with the residential versus commercial properties or anything else. My comment was referring to the 9,000-foot long private driveway as opposed to 1,000-foot long driveway, which is provided for in our regulations. If the intent, Mr. McDonough, is to have rights of way so that fire trucks and police vehicles and so forth, I'm not concerned about local traffic, fire trucks and police vehicles could enter through either entry, then I'd like as a part of this to see the rights of way granted and be recordable as a part of this application. Until that point, I have a real problem with a 9,000-foot long road.
Thank you, Annie. Could I ask Jen, like a point of order, where we have not taken jurisdiction or even said this is a complete plan? Are we okay to like go into details like this right now, or?
I mean, it's certainly all right for Annie
Okay.
to express her general concerns of the application. You have not taken jurisdiction. You do have 3 waivers to deal with. There are a few other issues that you may want to touch on. I can go through my letter if you would like. But as far as doing a complete application or taking jurisdiction, you have not done that yet.
So we could handle the waivers before we actually have, it's considered a complete plan?
No,
No.
but something that you may want to consider is if there is more information that you need to make a decision,
Right,
perhaps coming to some of Annie's points that she brought up or anyone else's, you could certainly require that before you deem it complete and then take up the waivers as well, if that may
Okay.
make a difference. So
right. Okay, thank you. Do you
These-
want to, oh, go ahead, Annie, sorry.
No, Sandra, this is
Oh,
Barbara.
it's Barbara, go ahead.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
According to number 4, which Annie was referring to, the issue that I have with that is the fact that it's going across property that that other gentleman owns that building, so part of that private drive is owned by somebody else and not Mr. McDonough, as far as I understand. And that was what the issue was, the fact that if that person who owns that building decides he doesn't want traffic to come across, then it's not considered a through road because it's just a driveway and not a road. That's just my comment.
Right, so that would be a concern, like moving forward or something for discussion, correct?
Right.
What actually is the condition? Is that considered just like a right of way, like you said, or a private, driveway? So that would be a point of discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Jennifer, would you like to give us your review of this application?
Sure. Just reiterating, you have not taken jurisdiction. As Mr. Coleman alluded to, I did comment in my letter about some of the ownership issues. This proposal involves 3 lots. Lot 27-3, as it's been conditionally approved back in December, although that hasn't been finalized, but it includes lot 27-3 and then lot 14-1-2 and 14-1-1. It appears that at least 14-1-2 is owned by Mr. McDonough as an individual, and lot 27-3 is owned by 125 Development Corp. Now, I do understand that Mr. McDonough is one of the principals of 125 Development Corp, but I don't have any paperwork that states that he is the sole person. But under the tax cards, these pieces of property are owned by an entity, and then one is owned by an individual. I can't confirm lot 14-1-1. The assessing card was not available online when I looked a couple of days ago. So my suggestion to get through that is that Mr. McDonough could do one of 2 things. He could voluntarily merge the lot after they've all been put into the same ownership name, him as an individual or 125 Development Corp. It doesn't matter. He could voluntarily merge it and then subdivide it as he's proposed in this application. That may be the easiest. Or he could have paperwork drawn up that says that 125 Development Corp. And then he as an individual are allowing the lot line adjustments, which is the shifting of the subdivision lines between all of the lots. Either one of those would solve that issue. Is that clear enough to folks?
I'm trying to follow, but I think I got lost.
Okay. The bigger lot of the 3 lots is owned by the corporation. I believe the other, at least one, if not both of the 2 smaller lots that are in the residential zone are owned by Mr. McDonough as an individual. Because they have different ownerships, we either need the owners to agree to all of the subdivision lines being changed and proposed, or all of the lots need to be merged, but they need to be under the same ownership.
I guess I'm confused with that condition wasn't around when we subdivided the ones we're waiting for. That condition wasn't around then?
Because the 2 smaller lots were not involved.
Jen?
Okay, so
Jen,
now he's
can I
trying to
interrupt?
add that other lot, the other 2 into this. Okay, I think I follow now.
Jen, can I interrupt and cut this short? I'm going to merge them all into 125 development. I'm going to take the 2 residential parcels and I'll get them into 125 development. So that won't be an issue. So
Okay,
let's move on
so-
to the next point.
So, but just as a clarification, that will take a voluntary lot merger, which is, as long as you agree to it as the owner, is really just a formality, but it would have to be a part of this.
Yes.
Right,
Okay.
which would affect us having a complete application, so we'd have to wait for that first.
I would recommend that, but it's certainly as I'm advisory, that's up to the board.
Okay,
Would you like me to keep going down through my
sure,
comments?
sure.
Alright. As I've noted before, subdivision approval with this would require approval from Plastow. And anything that they require through their regulations. For the roadway, as mentioned by a few other people, there are 3 waiver requests. The first one is regarding the right-of-way width and whether or not there is a requirement to have it be the 50 feet as a local collector or the 60 feet as a minor collector. I actually had a discussion with Mike about this a couple of days ago. He doesn't seem to have any concern with the right-of-way being the 50 feet as long as the roadway is the consistent width of 24 feet. You certainly could ask him for additional feedback. It will require a DOT driveway cut for when they want to put the road in. So that waiver is something you do need to take up. And if you do want to grant the waiver, I would recommend that you deem it to be a local service road and also specify that it is less than the required 50 feet by that point, I think 0.02 feet. So just if there is a motion to grant that waiver, I would specify both parts of that. For the waiver for the roadway length, for the slope of the roadway, I would recommend you default to Mike's comments on that as it's more of an engineering aspect. That's comment 8 on his review letter. The third waiver is for the dead end road length, which you do have in your requirements, no more than 1,000 feet. The proposed roadway is just over 9,000 feet. It goes on in your regulations to talk about some of the reasons for limiting the length of a dead end street. And it also states that when possible, you need to be able to connect it with a future connection. There is already a future connection there, given that there's a private access drive that already connects to the end of Puzzle Lane and the proposed dead end of this other loop road. So for that reason, I'm not going to recommend that waiver be granted, and that if you do agree with that waiver, that you require it to be built to town roadway standards. So if it were to ever be accepted as a public road, it is built to your town standards. Going down through the Gaslight Easement, I brought this up previously, that because there is that high volume transmission line under some of the access for this loop road, as with the area over by Puzzle Lane, simply that Unitil is the owner, have approved that the easement owner approves of the roadway construction in case there are any things designing with that high volume transmission line, and you just receive a letter from them. As far as a traffic study, you do not outright require a traffic study in your subdivision requirements, but you may require if you so choose. If the planning board seems to think that it would be a helpful piece of information to have, a traffic study already has to be prepared by, be prepared for DOT. You simply haven't been granted access to it at this point. So it may be an additional piece of information you want to consider, especially if you go on to declare this a potential development of regional impact, which I'll get to further in a second. As far as stormwater, it does appear that the requirements of your new stormwater regulations have been met under what they have proposed. There are a few things regarding notation on the plan that I'm recommending just to make sure it is very clear to any future owner of any of these parcels what they are required to do. Any easements for stormwater infrastructure should have dedicated rights granted to the town, should be reviewed by town council. And just to note that any future development on any of these sites would have to meet your site plan regulations, or if it was a future subdivision at the time. And as noted in Mike Vignali's letter, the stormwater volumes were not consistent with some of the peak flows. There may be a need to actually make sure that any future development will actually mitigate that post-development stormwater to be pre-development amounts. The next one is basically any of the variances that are required for this need to be granted by the ZBA. To date, I know that those have been denied and are being appealed. I don't know the status of them beyond that, but just as a general recommendation of any condition of approval. Any future site plans that may come for any of these lots would have to be approved by the planning board. I've got a couple of comments in here. I'm not going to read through all of them, but future regulations would be applicable to any future site plan development. A couple other comments just related to some of the open space requirements you actually do have in your regulations, whether there are any specific requirements the planning board wants to consult for protection of any natural features. There are quite a few wetlands in the area, or if there are any tree plantings along the right of way the planning board may want to consider. It does say that you should consult with the Conservation Commission if you wish to do that. I've included a list of just sort of general recommendations of any approval that kind of notes several of the things I've just brought up. Recordable Mylars, notes being set, monumentations being set, all permits being received, a performance guarantee be established. This is right under your regulations. And then approval from the town of Gladstone. These are all fairly standard conditions. I just suggested them in here for ease of remembering a fairly extensive list. The last comment, which is probably my larger comment, is whether the planning board wants to deem this a development of regional impact. You did when we had the applicant pitch this as a design review. At the time, the Regional Impact Committee at my office at the Planning Commission chose not to have a hearing because it was a design review. If you were to declare it a regional impact at this point, which you certainly have that option one way or the other, if you were to declare it, then it would be that the Planning Commission's Regional Impact Committee would actually schedule to have a hearing. It's actually a public meeting. It's not a hearing. The Regional Impact Committee and the Planning Commission have no say as to what Newton may ultimately do, but the one thing it does do is it grants the Planning Commission and any impacted communities, in this case it would primarily be Plastow, a butter status to be able to comment on the application. That is the main thing that it does. The Planning Commission's development of regional impact will evaluate the project for things specified in the state law related to proximity to neighboring communities, the number of dwelling units, that's not really applicable in this one, transportation network impacts, anticipated emission impacts, proximity to water resources, and any shared facilities. The shared facilities that could potentially come about may be emergency services. But those are things that RPC would actually do through a formal process. The applicant would be invited to give a presentation of the application before the Regional Impact Committee. But again, it comes down to it would have no binding effect on whatever Newton's board may choose to do.
It's just another tool to help us make decisions.
It is another tool. The one thing is that if you choose to do it, you don't have to do it prior to taking jurisdiction. You could do it at any point, but it is more useful as a tool for the planning board to consider at about the point of taking jurisdiction. Before or after doesn't really matter. Usually it is immediately after you've taken jurisdiction, but if you think there's more information that you may be requesting that may be useful for a regional impact, you could certainly declare it beforehand.
Sandy, this is Annie.
Yep, go ahead.
What is the order that we should take these? Should we take the waiver applications first or the regional impact first? Or do we first decide whether or not we're going to take jurisdiction? How do you want to proceed?
Well, I guess that's for us to decide. We can't do the waivers unless we take jurisdiction, I understand. Although we could
Correct.
summarize, we could talk about them in general, I guess. We could talk about the whole thing in general.
Sandy, just if there's more information you feel you need to deal with the waivers.
Yeah.
And then you could certainly discuss the need for any additional information that you want. And you could take jurisdiction or not, but I would suggest that you go that route, and how you deal with regional impact is certainly up to you.
Andy, question?
Go ahead, is that Larry?
Yeah, Larry, so would it be proper to say if we can accept the plans with the conditions that are met with, number one, with the AOT, which is the alternate of terrain, the Department of Transportation, the wetland crossings, the New Hampshire DES, with the classed out sign off of the ZBA variances, and a clean letter from the town engineer, Mike Vinali? Would that help with accepting a condition, accepting a plan with these conditions? And if the conditions are met, then the plan's no good.
Sandy, this is Jen. Can I answer to Larry a little bit?
Yeah, he kind of went in and out, but I think we got the general gist. Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
So Larry, what you listed off are generally conditions of approval. You would do that after you've taken jurisdiction and had the public hearing and heard from abutters. So that would be something more towards the end for having that information or having that as a condition.
All right, so Jen's, our first order would be to take a vote on jurisdiction then, correct?
If you feel that you have all the information you need, then you certainly could accept jurisdiction.
I'll make a motion to take jurisdiction of this plan.
This is Annie, I second.
This is Mike. I have a question before we vote on this. How close does it appear to be that we even have a completed application, at least in your view, Jen?
I do think a traffic study would be useful information for the planning board to consider. There are, for the most part, it is complete from a technical standpoint. I think if you do not, just if you don't grant the waivers, there is other information that will need to be supplied.
May I ask a question? This is Annie.
Yep, go ahead, Annie.
Could the applicant please tell us the status of the traffic study?
Would you like to tell us, Coleman?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
We are hiring Steve Pennell. The DOT is about to be submitted, right? Which takes into the regrading of the entrance of the roadway, which was a problem in the plan. So that's kind of held up DOT. So the application's in with DOT. Jim Hewitt knows that Steve Purnell is our traffic study guy who also did phase one. I've contacted Steve, he's ready to go, but it plays into everything, the line of sight in the final approach to the roadway. It's still, being adjusted. It's a give and take situation with elevation and wetland fillings and walls, but it appears like Bill has reached Mike, an agreement with Mike, and they're pretty close with the final draft. Once that final draft of the approach to come out onto 108 is achieved, then DOT will get that along with the traffic study, and whatever Steve Pennell and Jim Hewitt works out as they did on phase one, they'll that won't take too long. AOT is probably the longer of the two, but Steve Purnell is doing the traffic study, and I'd be happy to disclose that with the planning board.
Question, how long is not too long for getting the traffic study done?
I'm gonna reach out to Mike. Again, it's the chicken and the egg. The road's gonna be finalized to make the application to DOT. The DOT, we'll do the traffic study on the final approach of the roadway.
Okay, so to rephrase my question, once you pull the trigger to do the traffic study, how long to do the traffic study? Are we talking months, years?
No. Yeah, probably, a month,
Okay,
maybe a month. Yeah.
that's helpful.
Yeah.
So this is Sandra. Now I have a question. So a traffic study, how do they estimate like that? Would it be a traffic study on a 36 lot subdivision, like the road, the traffic, or like we're still pending it still hasn't been approved, all the waivers. So it might be potential that we're not going to have 36 lots. So I'm just wondering how that, like what parameters do they use for that traffic study?
That's why they get paid the big bucks, Sandra. I'm not.
Wendy?
I know that, and I know that the big thing is traffic to the intersection, not so much what you're thinking, Sandra, as to how much traffic there's going to be. It's the existing traffic with the projected traffic, with the line of sight, accelerator lane, decelerator lane, the approach of the traffic. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I know there's a big science to it, and both Jim Hewitt and Steve Purnell will work that out.
Okay,
that's
thanks.
their job.
Okay,
Could I have
thanks.
one little comment to that, please?
Oh, that's Mike.
Yeah.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, I actually am an engineer, so I know something about this, but so basically what the traffic study will do, they'll look at the kind of the worst case build out, the maximum build out for the development, and they'll generate traffic based on the type of use that's in there. Then they'll take that, look at the intersection, and DOT will evaluate whether lanes are required, turning lanes, either left turn or right turn lanes are required or not. So if Steve Purnell is going to do that and DOT is going to review it, to me, it makes sense to sort of let that play out, and whatever DOT and works out is probably will be appropriate up there. So I don't think we'll have a whole lot to weigh in on that. As far as the approach grades go, you still have your regulations regarding that. 100 feet, 100-foot grade and all that stuff. So
Thank you.
for the traffic, this said for Steve Purnell, this should be a relatively routine traffic study for him.
See, that's why they get the big bucks.
That's right.
Sandra, this is Barbara. I
Thanks.
have a question.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, Barbara, go ahead.
Yes, and this question may be for Jen. Can we take jurisdiction before the voluntary lot merger, or do we have to wait for the voluntary lot merger?
Would not recommend you take jurisdiction until the lot merger has gone through, but it is certainly under the purview of the board.
Can we
Well,
make
that's-
that a condition, Jen?
I was going to ask. I was going to ask Larry, like, did he mean jurisdiction, or did he mean that to vote if the application was considered complete?
That's what
No.
jurisdiction does, Sandra.
Jurisdiction.
Okay.
Yes, complete and jurisdiction are the same thing.
Okay.
Seeing this plan has been in for over a year, and just now this ownership is being raised. Could I ask Jen if this could be a condition subject to Coleman merging the entirety of the land into 125, that it can be conditionally approved? And I'll have my attorney do that next week.
I would not recommend it be conditionally approved on those terms, but I also do not vote. Also, this application has been in since September.
Right.
And this is Larry. I like to throw that into my motion that happens.
That what happens?
Merging.
I don't think.
So generally, conditions are not put on motions for accepting jurisdiction.
All right, so
It doesn't mean you can't, just it generally is not done.
we just take
After
the
we
vote
take-
then, Sandra.
After we take jurisdiction, I mean, we're gonna have, I would think, a lot of questions and a lot of items to go over. I mean, these waivers for one, some of the other questions, some, you know, so like Jen said, I think what we're gonna consider as conditions might be a little ways off yet.
All right, so just call the vote then.
All right, does any other members have any other questions about or comments about if the application is complete and we should take jurisdiction? Okay, hearing none, can you call the roll, please, Jim? Do you want to read what
Sandra,
the,
excuse me, this is
Oh.
Barbara.
go ahead,
Uh,
Barbara.
Are you going to take this motion with the condition for the voluntary lot merger, which Larry added to it, or is that going to be off of this?
Well, I guess I need a clarification point of order because we had a second on the motion, right? But we didn't have a second on his addition, so I'm not sure.
Larry, if you're,
Larry,
making-
would you, yeah,
this is
make your
Annie.
motion again.
this is Annie. Larry, if you're making a motion to add that as a condition of acceptance of jurisdiction, then I second.
Proceed. Thank you, Annie.
Okay,
Sandy,
Jim, Oh,
Sandy,
go
can I
ahead,
make
Jen.
just one comment?
sure.
The merger may prove difficult. I only say this because lot 27-3 is not yet a legal lot of record the way it is configured on this plan. So it would have to be predicated on that 4-lot subdivision you guys conditionally approved getting finalized
By the town of Plastow.
by
approval.
Plastow.
Larry, would you make?
That will
that
be
a condition?
finalized, Jen.
No,
Okay.
if Larry will add Plastow approval of the 4-lot subdivision to his motion, I will second that.
I will.
Jim's probably shaking his head. I think we need like the whole motion again then, so we know what we're voting on.
So we're gonna make a motion to take jurisdiction with the merger and the approval of the Plastow 4 lots, I believe, 4.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the motion for Jim.
Hey there, Jim, you're kind of quiet.
I'm trying to write,
Okay.
and I put these in chronological order. Plastow approval of the 4-lot subdivision comes before the voluntary lot merger.
This is Mike. I have just a quick clarification question, not on the motion, but on timing. Once we, if we take jurisdiction, could I just be reminded that the clock starts and how much time do we have after that?
Mike, technically it is 65 days, but because we're under the emergency orders, all of those timeframes are suspended at this time, assuming the emergency order continues in the foreseeable future.
Okay, and if the emergency order doesn't get extended, then does the 65-day clock start from when we've approved it or from the end of the emergency order?
I'll admit that's a subtlety I can't answer. I would advise you try to stick with the normal timeframes as much as possible. In case that were to happen, I just don't think it likely will.
I just want both the applicant and the board to understand the time constraints that will be put on us if this is accepted.
Understood.
Just for another, I guess, a point of order, I think before we take jurisdiction, has everything been paid and do we have all our, I think we're supposed to have all that stuff in order. Is that all set, Jim?
Well, there's money remaining in the NEPR account.
Okay,
There are bills still coming in.
all right, thank you. Okay, so Jim, if you know what the motion is, would you like to read the motion and we'll call it?
Madam Chair.
Oh, I hear Roger.
Question.
Uh-oh. We can't hear you. Do we have,
Okay.
can we accept public comment now, Jen?
I think you have a motion on the table. That's really up to you.
No, we have to vote on a motion.
I
Okay,
have a question on the motion. When did the time clock start if you have conditions to the taking of jurisdiction?
Taking of jurisdiction would be the 65 days. I mean, again, it's suspended because of the emergency order. That's the reason I would not recommend conditions, but
But does it start when the conditions are met, or does it start from today?
it starts when you take jurisdiction, I believe.
Yes.
okay. Back to you, Jim, calling the roll.
Did you want me to read the motion?
Yes, please.
Mr. Foote moved to accept the application as being complete and take jurisdiction with the condition of Plastows' approval of the 4-lot subdivision and with the voluntary lot merger of 14-127-3 with 14-1-1 and 14-1-2.
Okay, so.
Okay, Mr.
Can you-
Cronlick,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
No.
Mr. Zelinski,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook.
No,
5-2. It passes.
thank you. All right, so I guess now we can talk about, oh, I had one other question before we start. There were some other waivers that were applied for. Did we talk about those already, Jen?
Originally, the waiver that was applied for was the roadway width. That was the only original waiver. The 2 additional ones were added in the most recent submittal.
Okay,
So you have not dealt with any of the waivers.
okay, thank you.
Sandra, this is Annie.
Yep, go ahead, Annie.
Before we discuss the 3 waiver requests, I'd like to move that we declare this a regional impact so that that process can begin.
Okay, I'll second that one. We can have discussion now. I think where it is, I feel it is a regional impact, and I think it would be best if we did it now. Well, I guess we just did take jurisdiction to help us with the plan, and then hopefully, not delay anything further either. So, Jen, could you tell us what we need to do to notify? Do we have to notify the Rockingham Commission?
Yep, technically, you will need to notify in writing the Rockingham Planning Commission, and then within 30 days, we have to set a date to have a public meeting where we will notify abutting towns or impacted towns about the hearing. The applicant will be invited to be able to present the plan. Then our regional impact committee will make recommendations that will get sent to you and any abutting towns for your consideration. So we try to schedule the meetings as reasonably quickly as we can. It would, in this case, be a Zoom meeting. And make sure that everybody is noticed as to what time it would be.
Thank you.
Sandra, could I offer a suggestion to, in addition to that motion for regional impact?
So you can see if Annie will take a friendly amendment.
Okay, I mean, and then the planning board will send a letter to the RPC.
Actually,
get
one goes to RPC and one goes to the town of Plastow.
Right,
I accept that.
okay, thank you.
Do any other members have a comment? No. Okay, I guess not, then we could take the vote on the motion.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Cronlick,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye,
and Mr. Zelinski.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Andy, this is Annie. May I speak?
Yep, sorry, I had to unclick my mute.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the first waiver to declare this a local service road with the notation that according to page 2 of the plans, this is 50.07 feet wide, not 49.9.
Second.
Was that Larry who seconded?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Larry, sorry.
Okay. Okay, I guess we can have discussion. I have a comment. So I have to read the whole thing first, but I'm wondering if they're asking if just the approach to 108 is a local service road instead of a minor collector, or the whole road. Once we vote on this, is it the whole road or is it just the section going in at 108?
Andy, it's the whole road.
Right. So does anyone know what the requirements for a minor collector road opposed to a local service road? Do you know the definitions of those? Right, should probably look them up in the book and see, so we can talk about the requirements versus what we think.
On page 43 of your subdivision regulations are where it discusses the difference between the different road types.
Okay.
It's under 2.4.
Madam Chair, this is Mike. While you guys are looking up that, I have that. I have a question for Mike, engineer. You're still with us, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. The definitions we have, they're fairly simple.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you, from your reading of it and from your understanding from an engineering standpoint of this overall plan, what would you be looking at this this road to be if there were no land constraints whatsoever?
It seems to me that the road is really being there. It's really not a cut through anywhere. It doesn't really collect roads from anywhere and bring them to anywhere else. It's really for lot access, the way I see it. So I think it's a local road. When I look at the local road versus the minor collector, the big difference is the right of way. The important thing on there is, trucks driving around there, the 24-foot wide is important to have that. If the shoulder is 4 feet or 6 feet, I don't know that it makes that much difference, frankly. The center line radius, is larger, which means you have, the road can't make such a sharp curve. The problem with the good part about that is it's easier to drive faster through there. The problem with that is you're impacting more wetlands to do it. So to me, it's a local service road, and 24 feet wide is probably fine for the traffic going through there. And the 150-foot radius allows you to avoid a lot more wetlands and impact the property less than you would if it was a collector road. So to me,
Okay.
I think I look at it as to me, it looks like a local service road.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to try to get a little bit better writing of a definition there for our plan, but thank you for that.
Sure.
Somebody trying to talk?
Hello?
I'm just trying to read a little more. Does anyone else have any questions?
Well, I guess this is Mike again. When is a waiver required on this? If the plan is telling us that it's a local service instead of, like, if we said before this is a minor collector, or is this just a waiver to get a clarification?
Yeah, that was my question too. Because like I said, we never really stated what road type we thought it was because we hadn't got that deep into the application yet, so.
So,
Mrs.
San,
Annie, since it's my motion, or am I seconding it? I can't remember. I think it's a clarification so that we're clear. There's been a lot of conversation back and forth from Jen and now from our town engineer and so forth. Let's just declare it a local road.
Jen, you had something?
I was just gonna say the planning board could, if you deem it a not necessary waiver, you could always decide that, or it can be simply the clarification Annie sort of alluded to.
So Annie, you changing your motion then?
What, to make it an unnecessary waiver?
Yeah, for local, just make it a local road.
I think my motion would be a clarification that this is a local road.
So I'll accept that because I second your motion.
Well, he has a waiver in front of us, right? So,
Well, he can either withdraw the waiver or we
right,
just,
well, we just,
if we
yeah,
vote this way, I'm sure he'll just withdraw the waiver.
right.
If it's granted, it doesn't need to be withdrawn, but you could deem it not necessary. Then none of it has to happen.
Okay, yeah, I think that's what the motion, not necessary. My view on these things, I like to minimize the amount of waivers and exceptions we're giving.
I agree.
Okay, I'll take that advice, and the motion is that the response to the waiver request is that it's not necessary.
Sandra, excuse me, this is Barbara.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion first that it's to decide that it's a local road and then make the motion that the waiver is not necessary?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Because like I said, point of order, if we never said what kind of road it is, and he's asking for a waiver. So Jen, what did you say? We just say it's,
I think you can state that you simply find that the waiver is not necessary. You don't even have to get into the rest of it. If you want to.
That's where the motion is right now.
okay. So I guess we can, any further discussion, we can call the motion, I guess.
Mr. Cronlick,
Well, can you read the motion so we know which way?
Ms. Collier moved that the waiver is not necessary.
Okay.
And Larry seconded it.
Right. Mr. Cronlick,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook,
Aye.
Mr. Zelinski.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Jim, where these are waivers, do you have that little thing about how waivers are granted? Do we have to talk on the points and stuff?
Sandy,
That would always be good to review.
Right, exactly. That's what I think. Yes, Jen?
and the fact that this was deemed not a necessary waiver, I don't think that's required, but I would recommend it for other waivers.
Well, that's what I'm thinking if we're going to go on to number 2.
It's on page 34 of your site plan regulations. I'm sorry, subdivision regulations,
Subdivision?
10.1.
So, Madam Chair, can we, I have a question if, assuming we're moving on to the second waiver.
Yes, we're moving on to the second waiver.
Okay, and this again is for Mike. I have your letter dated January 21st, and then I have the waivers requested January 7th, so I'm not sure how they line up. Does the waiver request wording line up with your bullet point number 8 on your letter about that same topic dated January 21st?
Yeah, I think so. When I get the submission of plans, there were 2 sets of plans I got. One was all bound together in one set, which I thought was a plan that was submitted. Then it was an alternate plan submitted separate from that, which I thought was an option that wasn't part of the plan set. What I understand from Mr. McDonough a while ago is that the alternate plan set was the one they're going with. So if they're going with the alternate plan, then a lot of the concerns I have go away because it meets a lot. It comes very close to meeting requirements or meets them.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because the concern I have with this waiver is the way I'm reading it, and I could be reading it wrong, is just asking for a waiver of that section 1.7. It's not reducing it down to what the alternative design is. So I don't know how those two match up now.
Yeah, when I saw the waiver request and I saw the alternate plan, I thought the alternate plan was just to show something that they didn't want to build, and that they were actually requesting the waiver to show with a plan that was part of the plan set, which seemed reasonable. At this point, I'm not 100% sure what's being asked here, what we're asking. I think they're asking you to approve the one that's in the plan set, which has a very small, that has almost no landing area at all, versus the one that has a larger, the 100-foot landing area.
Yeah.
I think that's what that's requesting, but.
Okay, yeah, I'm uncomfortable with this waiver, just basically asking us to waive the entire section there without going at least to what the alternate design would be and making that very clear what that would be. So if this waiver is strictly to waive that that section, then I'm opposed to that.
I think the alternate design actually showed an option where you didn't need the waiver, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that would be even better.
So that's what I think it was, but it wasn't part of the plan set. That's why I had to put this discussion in here, because it looked like a pretty good option was presented, but it wasn't being proposed, which that's what I understood anyway.
Okay, well, that would make things easy if we turn down this waiver. They've already got the sounds like an alternate plan that wouldn't require a waiver.
I'm completely in agreement with what Michael was and Mr. Vignali were just saying.
I will say that.
Plan be the one that be used.
Sorry.
Mike is correct. It just has to be blown up and put in the plan set. I think that Bill has gotten, if not met the regulations, got pretty damn close to the regulations. And that, that's what is going to be in the plan set, and that's what will be submitted with the DOT, and hopefully will be approved with DOT also. It just didn't get put in the plan set.
Sandra, can I
For
speak?
some
It's
reason.
Tom. Can I speak for a second, Sandra, please?
Who is it?
It's Tom
Oh, Tom.
Lightcourt. Yeah, I just want to say, clarify that the set of plans that Mike is speaking about, Mike Vignali, that's separate of the plans that was sent up that we're working on. That's what we want to go with, because that eliminates all the retaining walls, eliminates the wetlands issues. And I think this waiver and that plan didn't quite match up in time. Like Mike Andrews is trying to figure out, I think he's correct. I think it's sort of gotten outside of each other. The plan that's not in the plan set, the separate plan that was being worked on between Bill Gregsack and Mike Vignali, which is I think it's 3 pages, 2 pages. That parasite, that's what we're asking for. That's what we need to go with, because I think that's what was worked out between you and Bill, Mike. I think that's where we're at, and I think that doesn't require a waiver. In the end, I'm not
100% sure that it is. It does. Just to be clear, I had one conversation with Bill Grexack, and that was all. So
okay, Mike.
Sandy.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Jen.
Just a suggestion, because of this, which plans are we talking about? It might actually be cleaner if you wanted to, or if someone wanted to have a motion that would grant the waiver request, but with the condition that the alternate plan, which does meet the regulations, is incorporated into the final plan set.
Jen, this is Mike Andrews. The only problem I have with that is I have no idea what the alternate plan is.
Right, exactly. That's what I was thinking, right, that we don't know what that is. I mean, we had said that they could work with Mike and that the planning board would still have the final decision, once it was on the pages of the plan. So I hate to, like I said, approve something if we don't know what exactly the thing looks like.
So if that's the case, you can also hold off on discussing the waiver or making a decision on it, and they could update the plan to incorporate this alternate plan.
And then
so you don't have to make a decision.
Okay.
I guess is my point.
Sandra, can I speak again? It's Tom.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah. So what I say is the set of plan set, that was the last set that went in last Monday with Jim in the office, has the correct drawing inside of it. And I don't know how they if something got placed inside of them, that should be on page further in, that should be the correct set, should be in the set. So just trying to clarify that the set is there.
Do you know what page it is?
Not off the top, no. It was sent out electronic as a separate set of plans that weren't in the original electronic plans, but in the actual printed plans that went out, it's in there. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of confused too, because the plan's still dated August. So like, it's kind of confusing that this is a newer plan because it still has the date of the old plan on it.
Correct.
So
I know.
like,
Why I don't
when you look
know.
at it,
Yeah.
it doesn't look new.
If you go inside of it, it does.
Yeah,
and of course, it has all the stamps and all the dates and everything you needed. So, okay, I'm gonna leave you guys alone, but just wanted to clear that up. Hopefully that helps you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
if the new plan is there, is a waiver required? If it meets all the requirements, doesn't seem like the waiver would be required. If the new plan is part of the plan set, which it wasn't in the electronic copies that I received.
Right, Mike, that's correct. I think it's what happened is Bill made this request and I get the plans in after the fact, after the request, as it was being typed out and done. I didn't think I was going to make it, but I made it. They all went in for the members. But you have electronic, you only have an electronic copy of it. And you already spelled out saying that you didn't receive it as a plan set. But I know you electronically have the actual set that we're talking about. Because it was sent. I'm sure you've looked at it.
Oh, yeah. So do you not need the waiver now?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Mr. Luckberg, is the page I'm sharing the page you're referring to?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. Mhm.
Page number is it? I can't
It's
see.
page number 15 of 50.
Thank
Thank
you.
Okay, thank you very much.
So if the waiver, this is Mike Andrews. So if the waivers, it appears that it's not required, then I move that we just disregard or not take it up at this time. Till such time the applicant wants to withdraw the waiver.
But I was saying, can the applicant withdraw the waiver?
Yes, the applicant withdraws the waiver.
Okay, thank you. That
This
makes
is
it easy.
Coleman McDonough.
Thank you, Coleman. So, Jim, can you
You're
note
welcome.
that waiver number 2 was withdrawn from the applicant?
So noted.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the, I guess waiver number 3, section 2, design standards 2.8. We are asking for a waiver from this section, which requires a dead-end street to be no more than 1,000 feet. Proposed puzzle lane, so Annie already spoke to us, the puzzle lane roadway will have a total length of 9,060 feet if measured from the intersection of Industrial Way. The proposal is to have the proposed puzzle lane tie into the existing private/roadway, which connects the existing puzzle lane cul-de-sac. Therefore, traffic will be allowed.
This is Annie.
Yeah.
As
Go ahead.
stated before, I'd like to make a motion that we deny this waiver request.
Okay.
Annie and Sandy, can
You repeat that? I didn't hear that.
I make a motion that we deny this third waiver request.
Before that motion, before that motion is seconded, I wanna make a comment that I would like to continue this waiver until we further investigate. 14 years ago, the ordinance was changed by the planning board, which this isn't, I don't know why this waiver was even requested. Again, when this master plan was submitted, Peachy was the chairman of the planning board, and I want to look back into the records. So I want to continue the vote on this waiver until I get further investigation. And I believe that the extension of the cul-de-sac rule was granted, and this master plan was accepted 14 years ago. And again, the master plan was approved, and your bylaw was changed. And I'd like to continue this waiver until the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Jen, you had
Sandy?
some? Yeah, Jen, go
Yeah,
ahead.
just a comment, that it may be useful for the planning board to hear from the Regional Impacts Committee declaration and thoughts, and Plastow specifically. I say that because several of the lots would only be accessible to emergency vehicles that are located in Plastow from Newton on a potential long dead-end street. It may be useful for you to hear from them in your deliberations on this waiver.
Okay, thank
Can I
you.
also make a comment to that, Jen? I think most of the members, hopefully a lot of the members and yourself, Jen, may be familiar with Ward Hill Industrial Park in Haverhill. When you leave 495, it's 3 miles to the back of Ward Hill. 3 miles. But the town of Haverhill accepted that, okay, to put in their commercial industrial tax base into their city.
Thank you, Coleman, but we're not Haverhill, so, you know, you have to work with where you are.
But we're in Newton, and Newton
Correct.
approved this before, so I'm asking for a continuance.
Okay, so noted. We're gonna not talk about number 3 and continue it. So that does all the waivers, correct, Jen?
Those are the 3 waivers. You certainly could hear from abutters or not. You could continue this. If at the planning board level, you don't need the applicant's permission at this stage. You can wait for the regional impact for further deliberation. It's really up to how you guys want to proceed.
Does any board members have any comments?
This is my personal opinion is I'd like to get some more information from regional impact as we move forward from this. So I would, if the board chooses, I would move that we continue this.
I'll second that. Do you have a date for continuance, Michael?
Unless otherwise, I normally go for the next meeting, more from the applicant's benefit. Although I rather doubt that we'll have information from regional impact at that point. What would your estimate be on that, Jen?
Realistically, it's unlikely it would happen by the 9th of February, but it's possible by February 23rd.
I'm open to any input from the applicant, Coleman.
I'm receptive to continuing it from here. Again, I'm going to do some research as to the master plan and back years ago with the planning board and talk to people that were on the board.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is possibly continue it for 2 meetings from now.
What's the date on that, Mike?
Jim, help me
February
out.
23rd.
February 23rd.
See you February 23rd. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, actually, we need to vote on that, don't we, or do we?
I agree with that.
You do.
I agree with that date as a seconder. This is
Okay.
Annie.
Any discussion about continuing till the 23rd? Okay, hearing none. Jim, could you call the roll on extending this till February 23rd?
Mr. Cronluck,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Barbara, you there?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. No, I said hi. I said aye, yes. Thought I was on mute. I wasn't.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook,
Aye.
Mr. Zelinski.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Sandy, can I just make one quick comment just for the abutters that may be listening? The Regional Impact Committee is a public meeting of which the public is allowed to attend. And it will be a Zoom meeting, but just so folks are aware of that.
How do they notice that, Jen?
We will notify Plastow and Newton of when the meeting is, and then we also post it on the RPC's website, but I can certainly be in touch with Jim and so that he can post it on the town website, I suppose.
Because they don't send out any like per se announcements or anything.
We do not send out a butter notices or anything to that effect.
Okay. Okay. I have a general question about, like Coleman said, the original plan for this that was, however, approved how many years ago? We must have that on file, correct, Jim? Do we know what year that was?
It would take some
It's on the
research.
planning board wall.
It's on the what?
It's on the wall in the planning board office. If it
Oh, is that
hasn't
you,
been
Coleman?
removed. Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's been on the wall for 14 years now.
Okay. And
But
it's in
back
the
when
record.
Peachy, again, back when Peachy was, chairman of the planning board, he motioned, to extend the rule, the length of cul-de-sac rule and regulation. And we discussed this in great detail, that when we got to this point.
Point of order.
Oh, go ahead, Andy. What?
Point of
Oh,
order. We've
Yeah.
continued this. I think we should move on in our agenda.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Colin, for the input. We'll look into that and we'll be with you on the 23rd.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So this is the end of this article, so I can step down and we'll get Roger back for the item number 2. Thank you all for your help tonight.
Thank you, Sam.
Can you hear me? Jim, unmute 2515.
Roger, did you ask me to mute it or unmute it?
Unmuted. Now I'm okay. Basically, my audio was on the phone because my computer audio was not working. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, fine. We'll go with this one. Okay, next item on the agenda. Robert Bartlett and Timothy Hazra of Newton, New Hampshire request a public hearing for a lot line adjustment between properties at 15 and 17 North Main Street, Newton, New Hampshire. The property are referenced as tax 11, block 7, lot 31 and 31-1. Before we go to that though, Jim, did you call the roll on the continuance?
Yes.
So now, does the applicant want to make a presentation?
I believe that's Mr. Zilch. Mr. Zilch, you are self-muted.
Unmute, do *6.
Good evening.
Good evening. Would you like to make a presentation, please?
Okay, no, I just walked away from the computer and I came back. I didn't realize that you'd call me on. My apologies. No, this is a lot line adjustment. Charlie Zilch from SCC and Associates. Here on behalf of Robert and Virginia Bartlett. They're the owners of tax lot 31-1 at 15 North Main, as well as Timothy Hajar. He's the owner of tax lot 31, which is 17 North Main. Like I said, for their lot line adjustment. The Bartlett's lot 31-1 is 10.07 acres and has 202 feet of frontage on North Main Street. The lot currently supports the Bartlett's single family home, the garage, as well as an on-site septic system and their water supply. Mr. Hajar's lot, the adjacent lot 31 is 1.39 acres, has 191 feet of frontage on North Main Street. Like the Bartlett's, he also has his single family home there, garage, a couple of outbuildings. That home is also served by its own individual on-site septic system and well. So both the lots are located in the residential A zone. Neither of the two parcels are within a flood hazard area or an aquifer protection zone. So the intent of the application is pretty straightforward. It's a simple lot line adjustment between the two neighbors. The Bartletts are proposing to convey parcel A, as you can see on the plan. That's about 6.1 acres from the rear of their lot, and that's going to be added to Mr. Hajar's lot. So after the lot line adjustment, the Bartlett's lot will be decreased to 3.88 acres, and Mr. Hajar's lot will increase to 7.57 acres. Both frontages are unaffected, and the lots remain conforming to zoning. So with this application, there's no state approvals required, no waivers are requested from the board, and there's no variances necessary for the application. We went out, we set the monuments, and I think that's really about it.
Did you say you have set them or you will set them?
No, we already set them.
Jennifer, do you have any comments?
My only comment is that I would recommend a recordable Mylar and that it be registered at the Rockingham Registry of Deeds before final approval. Or as part, I'm sorry, as part of final approval.
Does anyone have any other comments?
Yep, Sandra. I just have a question on the, is the lot line along that stone wall on the other side? Like on
The line for the Bartletts is moved beyond the stone wall. It's about 50 feet out from that wall.
No, I was thinking the new line for the other lot.
Yeah,
Like,
that runs along the lot line, the stone wall.
So his line comes along that stone wall now,
Yes.
so he's just gonna go more straight out back.
So basically all we did is we just created a lot line behind the Bartletts about 50 feet out from an interior wall. You can see where that wall is now.
Yeah.
And then we just created that parcel A that's almost, a big rectangle behind the Bartlett's lot. That's going to be transferred over to Hajar's. So we don't create any lot line along a wall. Whatever wall was a boundary wall remains a boundary wall. We didn't change any of that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, this is Annie. I'd like to move that we take jurisdiction of this application.
For a second,
I'll second Edmund.
are there any comments? If there being none, you call the roll?
Mr. Cronlick,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Hamel.
All right. Any comments from the board on the application? Any comments from anyone in the public about the application? Does anyone on the board make a motion?
Yes, this is Barbara. I'll make a motion that we approve this lot line adjustment.
Second that.
With conditions of the
Recordable Mylar.
is that all we need, Jen?
Yes, that'll take care of it.
Okay, and it was who seconded that?
Mike.
Any comments on the motion? Mr. Doggett, please call the roll.
Mr. Cronlick,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook,
Aye.
Mr. Foot,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook. Sorry,
Aye. I
Mr.
thought I
Hamel.
already voted.
Mr. Hamel.
Aye. That closes this item.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bet.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the policy manual amendment. The proposed amendment to the policies and procedure manual is that to amend the Newton, New Hampshire Policies and Procedure Manual by removing section D and E under Schedule of Fees and replacing them with fees and escrow deposits shall be reviewed and set annually by the planning board. Are there any comments on the amendment to the policies and procedures?
Just had a question. It says we're going to remove them from our procedures. Does it say where we're going to post them?
It says that we're going to review them annually, and then the next thing we're going to take up after this is to set them, and then they will be posted, and I guess you given to the town clerk also, right, Jim?
Yes, and they will be actually part of Appendix 1 to the Policies and Procedures Manual.
Should we put that in the amendment, that the fees will be listed in the appendix? People know where to find it?
I'm writing as fast as I can.
Roger, this is Barbara.
Yes.
Yes, so this gives the board the latitude to make any changes that are necessary with just within a meeting and not having to have a public hearing.
Correct.
Right.
Get that all written down, Jim?
Almost. Yep.
Are there any other comments from the board? Yes, seeing that this is supposed to be a public hearing, so we'll open it up for any comments from the public. If I would entertain a motion to adopt the amendment to the policies and procedure.
I'll move.
So moved. This is Barbara.
Okay. I'll second. This is Annie.
And I'm seeing that you were writing so fast. Why don't you read what you wrote?
To amend the, Ms. White moved to amend the New Hampshire Policies and Procedure Manual by removing sections D and E under Schedule of Fees and replacing them with fees and escrow deposits shall be reviewed and set annually by the planning board. The fee schedule shall be included in the Appendix 1 of the Policies and Procedures Manual.
Anyone have any other comments before we vote? Doggett, please call the roll.
Mr. Hamel.
Aye.
Mr. Andrews.
Aye.
Ms. Collier.
Aye.
Mr. Cronlick.
Aye.
Mr. Foot.
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
In your packet, there was a revised fee schedule. And on the back was an analysis of justification for the increase that we're proposing in the fees. Have any comments?
Would you like me to explain what I did?
Sure, go ahead.
If you look at the analysis, you'll see what I basically did was went through and found the least expensive ad, the most expensive ad for those particular items, and any other things that are particular to a specific application. And I gave the scale. I honestly suggest that the fees should represent the upper end of the scale, because with most of these, the town needs to have the money, because quite honestly, it's sometimes difficult to get money afterwards if we go over. We were lucky recently. We had a lot line adjustment that the cost was over $200 more than the escrow requirement, and they were graciously made sure that we got paid, but there's no guarantee.
So we can always hold off on the, for a lot line adjustment, hold off on registering the plot until we get see. But anyway, okay. So are there any comments from the board?
This is Barbara. Do we need to make a vote on accepting the suggested amounts for the NEPA deposits?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
basically, I would look for a motion to accept the fees and escrows as outlined in the statement that you got.
So moved.
This is Annie. I'll second that.
Okay, I have one comment at the a typo thing on the design review. There should also be an asterisk there, like there is for every other. But the $1,000 should have an asterisk next to it.
Oh. I apologize. I did catch that, just not prior to. I printed this out, looked at it, and went. But I wasn't going to waste paper to print out fresh copies.
Right. We'll have an asterisk on it. Okay, so that's the fee schedule that we're voting on. Any other comments? Not Mr.
This is
Collier.
Mike. Oh, sorry, this is Mike. Just for clarification, because it appears we'll be doing this every year. Just to clarify that this is the Newton Planning Board fee schedule for 2021 that we're accepting.
Yes.
Since that's the title.
I was just going to say that's also the title of the page.
Exactly.
Though it will stay in effect until the planning board approves a new one.
Yes.
Correct.
So are we all ready to vote?
Yes.
Sergeant, call the roll, please.
Mr. Hamill,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Cronlick,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook,
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Okay. The next item on the agenda, committee reports. This was going to be at the very end, but I had spoken to Jen and she had comments she wanted to make. So what we'll do is we'll open this up at this point and get Jen's input and hash that out, and then table it until the end of the meeting so that we can done. When that's done and we come back in, we can again talk about. At that point, I don't know if Jen, do you want to start, or do you want, Annie, do you want to start and talk about the conversations you had with Jen?
I'll be happy to start. This is Annie. On the steering committee, we did not have a meeting because there was a communication error as far as whether it was Thursday or Friday. In one of the, there were several documents that were forwarded to committee members, and in process over the last couple of weeks, one of the things I've done is to dig in with Jen on her proposals for and what she would provide. I think you all know that I am a very much, you know, I want bang for the buck. I don't want to spend one single penny that we don't have to. With Jen's last clarification of what would be included in RPC preparing and overseeing the survey, it's my recommendation that we go with doing the survey through RPC with a $2,500 ticket, and then plan to write our draft vision chapter ourselves.
Okay, I would, before the planning board votes on that, I would like you to get your committee to at least have a meeting and to discuss in the committee.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. You broke up a little.
I said before the planning board votes to do that, I would like for you to have at least one committee meeting. Yeah, because I really don't think that this recommendation should just be from you. So you should have at least one committee meeting with some input from both the other planning board members who are on your committee and the other people that you've invited for your meetings. But before we move forward on that, but I totally agree that you know would be the most appropriate way to go. But I think you still need to start to build this committee and make it work.
I agree, and it has started. It's just, you know, it was difficult. One of the things that we're going to be doing is planning to meet every third Thursday. And hopefully you will have Mr. Doggett host Zoom meetings for us, as long as that's an option, meet at town hall and have cable as well. So the idea is to make it as broad as possible. Mr. Doggett was unavailable this last Thursday, so we were unable to put it together with Zoom. I think that will be solvable in the future.
Yeah, I think.
This is Sandra. Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Last week, I think we nominated 2 people, and we thought that maybe Mike Andrews might want to join. So who is on the committee now?
I think that we had Mike Andrews. I think he wasn't here. So.
Right.
I would like to make a comment on that. I actually received some communications from Edvin, and he had basically he asked what the process was to get on the committee. And at this point, I would like to make a motion to include Edvin as a member of the planning board. Not the planning board, the
master plan steering committee.
So who else are members then?
I will second that motion.
So we have Edvin, Annie,
and Steve Sforza.
And Steve. So we have nobody from the public yet?
We actually had some people come. Pat Masterson came from Recreation, and the fire chief was under quarantine, so he was unable to make it. I hope the police chief is going to be having somebody. Charlie Melvin came as a member of the Board of Selectmen. Larry had a conflict. Larry Foote had a conflict and was unable to attend unless it was a Zoom meeting. Hopefully with a little more time, we'll be able to put together more. I can say, Sandy and the rest of the board, that one of the things is that I am currently scheduled to go before the Board of Selectmen to request that they make it a requirement for each board and committee and department in town to have a representative on the planning board. on the master plan or steering committee.
So, why don't we vote on putting Edvin on, and then we'll get a couple other comments, and then we can move. So place Edvin, I assume you still want to be on.
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. So, Doggett, call the
Who
roll.
seconded that, please?
What?
Who seconded?
I did, it's Annie.
Thank you. Mr. Hamel,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Cronlick,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook.
Are we voting to put Edvin on?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Ms. White.
Aye.
That's
unanimous.
Okay. Now, Annie, as far as having Jim host the Zoom, they're going to get a reasonable number of people. I think with appropriate lead time, I think Jim will be able to adjust his schedule so that he'll be available to host the meetings. Right, Jim?
That's on non-meeting weeks. I should be able to.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
But I mean, on short notice, it may not be able to happen. But if you give appropriate notice, we should be able to accommodate that.
Great.
Is he volunteering his time, or are we paying him?
Oh, no, you're paying me.
Yeah. So.
Well, we have to adjust.
We're trying to save money.
Please remember that I alternate between 16-hour weeks and basically 19-hour weeks. Meeting weeks are 19 hours. Non-meeting weeks are 16 hours, depending upon how long the meeting goes and how long the minutes are.
So that'll be taking part of your minutes, your hours away from the planning board?
No, but I might start later on Thursday in order to be here. If the meeting always starts at 6 o'clock, I'll know that I need to be able to schedule that I'll be here from at least 6 to 7, if not 6 to 8. Right now, as my hours get used up earlier in the week, Thursday night shrinks.
Right, and that's when people are expecting you to be in the office.
But he's only by
It's by appointment only at the moment.
Right.
And it's one of those things I have to do. 90% of what I do is statutory requirements.
We handle that offline. So Annie, basically you're all set then, right?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much.
Great. So now we're going to go into non-public.
Can I just make another comment about that committee thing? I'm a little concerned. Annie said she's going to go in front of the selectmen, but like, is she speaking as representing the board if we don't know like exactly what she's going to say, or is she just like she said that the board thinks that everybody should have a member? Like, is that something the board should vote on before she approaches the selectmen, that that's the board's opinion?
She's going before them as the chair of the master plan subcommittee.
Right, but not that the planning board is saying. It's a proposal that maybe they're going to put before
planning board.
I just want to clarify that.
Okay.
This is Mike, just a clarification for me. So if you're going before the board as the chair of the committee, what are you presenting to the board? Did I miss something?
I'm sharing with them the purpose of a master plan, why it's important statutorily, and our potential for liability, because it hasn't been updated substantially since 1999. There have been a couple of updates. And how important it is and how important it is to have a broad vision with buy-in from various boards and committees, and that if it's left on a volunteer basis, we well know how volunteerism can work, and therefore asking them to make it a part of their duties as a member of a board or committee or department.
Okay.
Okay.
The next thing up is the non-public. Now, what
Roger.
everybody, what?
I don't mean to interrupt. Did you want me to speak about anything with the master plan, or are you all set?
We're all set for tonight, Jen. I think we'll,
Okay.
I think the thing that your input and going with that is fine for tonight. I think we're all set.
Okay, all right. Good night, everybody then.
Good night, Jen.
Night, Jen.
Can I have a motion to go into non-public?
This is Annie. I'd like to make a motion to move into a non-public per RSA 91-A:3 subsection 1-C.
It's Edvin, I'll second.
Okay, Jim, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hamel,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Cronlick,
Aye.
Mr. Foote, Ms. Estabrook,
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
And I invite all of the alternates to also attend the public. Now, what's going to have to happen is everybody's going to hang up from Zoom, call that phone number that I emailed to you, so that we can go through the evaluation. Okay, is everybody clear?
Yes.
Hang up from Zoom.
Okay, I will see you shortly in
Non-public.
non-public in the free conference call.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
This is Annie.
What's up, Annie?
Hey, how are you?
Are you going into that non-public, right?
Yep. Yes, I'm here. I thought, this is Annie. I think he's doing an exemplary job. I did feel that segment 11, leadership, is really not applicable. It's not his job description. Yep. I so move. This is Annie. Except on 11, we said not applicable. I'd actually made the motion to approve it, so. Aye.
Annie, tell them I said aye. They can't hear me. Annie, do you hear me?